Hello, everyone. In this video, I want to quickly walk you through the change management simulation, how to navigate the simulation interface, and what you will ultimately be trying to accomplish in the simulation. So first of all, when you log into the simulation, you should see that we are going to run scenario 4 first. In this scenario, you're playing the role of the CEO, and you are trying to lead change at Spectrum Sunglass Company. Now, the user interface has 4 different screens: prepare, analyze, decide, and news. And you'll traverse through those screens in a relatively logical order. First, we'll prepare, and then we'll analyze what's going on. We'll make our decisions, and then we'll get to see the outcome of our decisions. After that, we can go back to analyzing the outcomes, making new decisions, analyzing outcomes, making new decisions. This is the prepare screen. The prepare screen just tells us the backstory of the simulation. There's some foreground reading with some financial information. All of that stuff is completely supplemental. Everything you need to know about the simulation is on our course website already, but it's essentially you're the CEO, you're trying to lead change, and what you're trying to accomplish is getting at least 18 members of your team to adopt the innovation. So no matter what screen you're on, prepare, analyze, decide, or news, you'll see this dashboard at the very bottom that just helps you monitor progress. You'll see a few different things. You'll see how many weeks of the simulation you've used up. So you'll start at week 1. I've already made some decisions just so that I can show you what it all looks like. So I'm currently on week 45 of 96 weeks. So my goal is to try to successfully implement change in 96 weeks or less, and I'm about halfway through. In order to successfully implement change, I need to get at least 18 people on board with the change. Here you can see my organizational hierarchy. There are 20 people total in this hierarchy, including myself. I need to convince at least 18 of these people to accept my change initiative. You can see as I've been playing this simulation, I've got 5 people on board. So I'm not even halfway there with less than half the amount of time remaining. Another thing that you can see in the dashboard is just what phase of adoption the organization is in. So you can see here that the organization moves from sort of the mobilize phase, where they're getting ready for change, to the movement phase, where they're instituting or enacting the change, and to finally the final stage is the sustain phase, where we're sort of embedding the change permanently into the organizational system. So we're currently in the movement phase in this simulation. And then finally, you can see what my credibility is. And this is very important for me to manage, because the more credibility I have, the more likely the decisions that I make will be successful. And likewise, if I make bad decisions, that can influence my credibility negatively, right? So the better decisions I make, the better my credibility. The higher my credibility, the better decisions I can make. So let me quickly switch over to the Decide tab. And here we can see that there are 17 different levers that I can potentially pull. You can see that I've been pulling some of these levers in the past as I was creating this simulation video. But you can see that there are 17 different levers to pull. And as I click on a lever, you can see it provides me with a description. So issue an email notice. This would send out an organization-wide email message to help convey the vision, right? You can see the scope of impact. So this particular lever would impact the entire organization, but not all levers do. Some levers only impact a few individuals. You could see the weeks to implement. So if I were to select this lever and I were to, pull this lever by submitting my decision, my weeks used would go up by 1. So I would be on my 46th week, since this lever takes 1 week to implement. And then finally, you can see the weeks before reuse. So I would have to wait 4 weeks before I can pull this lever again. Here you can see I pulled this lever in the past, revised the reward system, and now I have to wait 19 more weeks before I can use this particular lever again. So how do I pull a lever? Well, I'm going to select the lever, and then I'm going to select Submit Decisions. Now, that would be if a lever impacts the entire organization. If a lever impacts less than the entire organization, let's say recognize an adopter, right? This one impacts one individual. So here what I would have to do is I would have to select which individual I want to recognize, right? So I would have to find an adopter, right? Select that adopter and then submit my decision. So I'm going to go ahead and just do this, but I'm going to purposefully make a bad decision. I'm going to do something that you shouldn't do. And that is when it says recognize an adopter, I'm going to recognize somebody who's not an adopter. So I'm going to go to my hierarchy here, find somebody. Okay, it looks like Harris. If you look at the 4 stages of adoption: awareness, interest, trial, and adoption. Harris is currently in the trial phase, so he is not adopted. Let's go ahead and recognize Harris. So I select Harris. It says the scope of impact is 1 individual, so I'm only going to select 1 individual. You scan to the top here, you can see I've selected 1 of 1. So I select Harris here, and then I'm going to submit my decision. When I submit my decision, it says, hey, that was a bad decision. So I lost some credibility. I started out with a fairly high credibility score. Now my credibility is down 1 to 8. This is my news. I can see that this really didn't help anything. Okay, once I've sort of processed information, I can say, okay, I've got it. Tells me some other information that I want to read through. Okay, I've got it. And then the simulation is automatically going to pull me to the Analyze tab. So now I can analyze this situation to see what's going on. Here I can look at my dashboard of all of the individuals in the organization. Importantly, if you've interviewed individuals, you'll get to see the responses of that interview. So here I've got this little bubble here that tells me that in the past, I interviewed Deborah. And if I were to click on this bubble, I can see why Deborah may be on board or may be resistant to my change initiative. In the Analyze tab, you can also see some other windows here. This is my dashboard that shows me the current state of all of the members of my organization. You can also see an organizational readiness screen with a whole bunch of information that I can use to determine what phase of adoption my team is in and how my team is moving through the different phases. You can see a lever impact screen that'll tell me when I pull a lever, if it does make an impact. That last lever did not make an impact, but if I pull a lever that does make an impact, it'll tell me things like, how much of an impact did it have, and which individuals did it impact either directly or indirectly. And then finally, there's this relationship network screen, which shows me the relationship network within my organization, sort of who is connected to whom, which I might be able to use to influence people directly or indirectly. So that's how the simulation works. Again, prepare is just the background information. You don't need any of this, so you can skip this for now. And you'll just be working through decide, pulling levers, news, determining the outcome of those lever pulls, and analyzing information to help you pull the next lever. Now for round 1, which is scenario 4, I just want you to do this once. This one, there's no implications of whether you pass or fail it, right? This is just for learning and practice and getting familiar with the simulation. After you've completed the simulation, which means after either 96 weeks have ended and you weren't able to get critical mass of 18 adopters, or if you did get a critical mass of 18 adopters in 96 weeks or less, that's going to be the end of the scenario or the end of the simulation. And you'll see a button on your screen that says, are you ready to start the next simulation? Before starting the next simulation, and this is really important, before starting the next simulation, head back over to our Canvas course webpage. And there you'll see within the progression of the module, you'll see that there's an opportunity for you to reflect on your experience. And I'd like you to reflect on that experience and read through your peers' reflections before starting the next scenario so that we can sort of learn from the trials and tribulations of this first round. There's also some learning objectives, which just tells you, hey, for the next round, here's what I want you to focus on. So make sure you do those 2 actions in the Canvas webpage before coming back and starting the next scenario. Now, if you don't see that button that'll automatically take you to the next scenario, the other way you can progress to the next scenario is by hitting the meatballs. I never knew that this was called the meatballs, these 3 horizontal dots. If you hit the meatballs menu bar, you'll see a menu here. It says, hey, we're currently on scenario 4. The next scenario is scenario 1. And if you go to scenario progress and click on scenario progress, you can see that you could either play scenario 4 again, or you can start scenario 1. I've already done scenario 1 before, so it says play again on your screen. If you hadn't done it before, it'll say start this scenario. You click on this and it's going to take you to scenario 1. And here you'll see that things are a bit different. You're no longer the CEO. Context is a little bit different. This scenario is the one that's sort of for all the marbles, right? What I'd like you to do is succeed on this scenario, which same thing, reach critical mass of adoption before 96 weeks. If you fail, I'd like you to learn from your failures and rerun the scenario, and ultimately keep rerunning the scenario until either you run out of time because you've reached the deadline for our module, or you've successfully completed the simulation. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to send them my way. Otherwise, best of luck.